If you were in a man, do you think that would have altered your career a bit?
1,000%. Because I'm the type of heterosexual man that will not compromise.
That was Omar Gooding talking about how his career would have been 1,000 times better if he succumbed to Hollywood's alleged ritualistic requirement for black actors to succeed on why he didn't follow that path he set.
The type of person that moves around in the world. So I know how, I couldn't do something even and be like, all right, fine, it's just acting. And then you meet somebody like, damn, I saw you with that. I say, oh, hell no, listen, man, that's
The other reason he gave was the even more shocking one to most people.
to do it justice. There's certain roles I just wouldn't even consider because I'm not gonna be able to pull it off, man. I'm offend them more than they gonna be offended by me saying something slanderous. They gonna be just like, oh, come on now, really?
However, this choice seems to have come with a major consequence on his career, and even he admits it.
Do you feel that you've been properly supported, or do you think the industry has overlooked Omar Gooding?
Oh, that's easy. Yeah, that's easy. No. Definitely not supported and definitely overlooked.
There are probably only a handful of family names known for their entertainment prowess, just like the Jackson Five were in their time. But like the Jacksons, the Gooding name is another family that has given the world unforgettable entertainment. This should naturally imply that their lives must have been at least somewhat smooth. But that wasn't the case, as just the way most people struggled to make it in the industry, they had their own share of profit problems. Omar Gooding made this revelation in the interview, also known as the younger brother to fellow actor Cuba Gooding. The actor has spoken about some of the complexities involved in him coming up in the industry over the years. However, Omar's claims weren't focused on the problems generally faced in the industry, it was more focused on the lengths black actors were expected to go to just for a couple of laughs. For his part, Omar claimed that right from the beginning of his career, there were lines he had already established within himself to ever cross, but as we've seen with even other black actors, these lines could occasionally get blurred. What makes his claims even more worrisome is that his brother, among a slew of other black actors who have spoken about the things the industry has tried to force them into, might have suffered a similar fate to him now. It seems the days of letting things slide are finally over, as he appears to be taking things into his own hands, and best believe it's as explosive as it gets, so stay tuned to understand and why this actor almost lost his mind coming up.
On the dress. Not everybody. I ain't seen Denzel put on Nair lip gloss. I ain't seen that boy do anything where I've been like, oh no, you too?
It's almost like the same television industry we saw growing up might be a completely different reality from what it is now, and several actors seem to have confirmed it. It just seems a little different now, coming now from someone most people thought had it all. It seems the only reason the actor is even able to tell his story now is because he had a fallback plan while he was pursuing his film dreams, and that plan seemed to have been the only thing that saved his life. According to the recent revelations from the actor, it appears that he was offered a couple of less than ideal things at the height of his career, according to him at least, and refusing those offerings seems to have been what meant the end of his career as he knew it.
Yeah, that's kind of how I looked at it young. Now I'm like, look, I understand the importance of making the right choices.
For him, it wasn't just the roles that made him feel the burn of the industry, it was also the fact that he had personal struggles in his life, some of which almost left him broke. While in the prime of his career, if there's any actor people know too little about their struggles, it's Omar, and what helps him in further passing on his stories about those roads he refused to go down in the industry is that there have been more than a handful of other black actors who also had a similar experience. So if it's not an isolated incident, it must be a pattern then, wouldn't you agree? Well, let's start with introductions. Although not as famous as his older brother Cuba, Omar has worked his way through television and into film as a dedicated actor. Starting out in television, this Bronx, New York native played the part of host in the 1990s series Wild and Amp Crazy Kids. The same year he made his film debut in the feature Ghost Dad. By the next year, he had landed several different guest roles on the series Blow. It was like, if it didn't work out, I can still just stay in school, but it wound up being a situation that I worked consistently till I was 24 for the next 10 years. Gooding remained outside the spotlight while his brother Cuba raked in the big bucks and major roles in big budget films. Omar continued to make appearances on such shows as Thea and Search Party, voiced characters in Batman Beyond, and received regular work in series like Hanging with Mr. Cooper and Smart Guy. Knowing just how Extensive his record of making movie spans, coupled with the fact that he had a brother who's one of the biggest stars in the world, you'd think Omar's rise to stardom would have been a breeze. But his reality has been anything but that recently. He decided to let the world in on just how different his life in the industry has been from what people thought. During a recent interview, Omar spoke about how there seems to be a ploy in the industry aimed at feminizing black male actors. The star revealed had in his own case, it's slightly more complicated than regular because he had very specific reasons why he would never compromise on his masculinity. Because I'm the type of head of his man that will not compromise for two reasons. For starters, he believes that because he's the type of person who likes to travel a lot, doing a role that painted him in a different light than how he wanted to be perceived as an actor was a no one. I'm the type of person that moves around in the world, so I know. How I couldn't do something even, I'm like, all right, fine, it's just acting. And then you meet somebody like D. I saw you with that. Oh, hell no, listen, man, that's acting. This makes sense because most well known actors are usually attached to their roles by the fans, so much so that when these fans see them in real life, they address them because of that role, which in his case would have been something involving a dress for him. He would rather have a life where he didn't constantly have to explain to people that doing that role was really just acting and had nothing to do with his personal life, so he would just steer clear other than the part of getting perceived a different way. Another reason Omar made an effort to avoid that part of Hollywood is that he seems to legitimately believe he couldn't pull it off even if he wanted to. There's certain roles I just wouldn't even consider because I'm not going to be able to pull it off, man. I'm offend them more than they going to be offended by me saying something slanderous. They going to be just like, oh, come on now, really? The tip of the iceberg. Omar revealed that if he was ever in a situation where he had to play a role like that, he'd most likely play it in a way that might be considered offensive by many, not because he wanted to intentionally do that, but because he believes he's just not cut out for that life. In fact, he used that as a point of contact to advise upcoming actors not to jump on that train out of not having many choices. He explained that it might be better to wait and land a shot on something they actually want as opposed to being forced into something they don't, which in this case seems to be a dress. In Omar's opinion, there's no such thing as not having a choice. The actor believes everyone makes their own decisions and deals with whatever consequences come after. He just believes the consequences of going down that road aren't worth it. People will try you. You play the character that they feel that they could try. In public, you know what I mean? And you got to, you got to stand up for yourself. And I always teach this to my young actors. Coming up, it wasn't just Omar who seemed to have been presented with unconventional roles, as the comic also revealed during the interview that his brother also had a similar experience while they were growing up. Was like, what you mean to tell me this man asked you if you ever decide not to be a man, that to call it like that, and he was okay with that. Well, it isn't clear if that road was explored. Omar revealed that one of the things that made it so he never got propositioned with certain types of roles was the fact that he wasn't particularly approachable. However, it seems it might take a little more than just appearance to avoid getting propositioned, as several other actors have also spoken about the concept of putting black male actors in dresses, and one of those is Cat Williams. It is possible that there isn't anything funnier than a guy in a dress, and if that's the case, then it might also be said that there's nothing funnier than a black guy in a dress. Williams admits that while it may be possible that there is nothing funnier than a black man in a dress like every other aspect of the industry, it is probably not. For everybody in this case, Cat meant that wearing a dress wasn't for him, as he seems to believe in his heart that it's the one part of acting he might be incapable of pulling off. I watched all of my friends throughout my entire life be able to dunk a basketball, but not me, so everybody can't do everything. So some of us make choices. I think it's not a biggest choice for others. However, it seems Cat doesn't believe that rule applies to all actors, as he mentioned that some people could wear dresses for scenes not only because they didn't have a problem with it, but also because there's a line of people before them that wore dresses. We would later get to know that those words were directed at Kevin Hart, who had been caught up in that very dress-wearing web. I'm saying, at the end of the day, Kevin doesn't have to worry about what people are going to say about him wearing a dress because of the long line of dress-wearing people before him, but that's an entirely different story. Because Kevin had previously spoken down on the idea. While in an interview, Kevin was asked about his thoughts on comedians or black actors in general being required to wear dresses before crossing to the net This level of entertainment, well, Kevin, as you'd expect, laughed at the idea of being required to wear a dress, and while the actor didn't specifically state that he'd never wear a dress, he pretty much alluded to it definitely have ran in to put it on the dress. I mean, you have to have boundaries, you have to have limits that you refuse to cross. In fact, the actor mentioned in the interview that he had been asked to do a bid with a basketball right before the show, and here what he said about the idea of crossing certain lines. When I was asked to dribble a basketball on a talk show this morning, said that not that that was a dress, but I was like, no, I'm going to look stupid. However, just a couple of months after that interview aired, Kevin shocked the world when he made his debut dress appearance in a Saturday Night Live skit. The new pope is 9-year-old Oscar nominee Convin Wallace, the first African American, the first female, and first child pope. Of course, Kevin isn't that first or only comedian to have donned a dress for the camera. In fact, male comedians appearing in drag seemingly have universal appeal that cuts across cultural lines. Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence, Jamie Foxx, and Tyler Perry are among performers who have gained laughs by cross-dressing. That they eventually got Kevin to put on a dress is proof of just how convincing the industry is in getting men to pull up in a drag. This is also why the discussion has gotten bigger over the years, with major industry players like Dave Chappelle also lending their voices to the fight. This aspect of Chappelle's resistance to Hollywood's casual attempts to get him into a dress was overlooked by the news media. In reporting on an interview, I see that they put every black man in the movies in a dress at some point in his career. Chappelle said the comic revealed that he was once asked to put on a dress for a scene in a movie he was doing with Martin Lawrence. Like when I connect dots that maybe shouldn't be connected. Ted, I don't know, but certain dots, like when I see that they put every black man in the movies in a dress at some point in their career, I'd be connecting down like why. When I see they put every black man in the movies in a dress at some point in their career, I'd be connected the dots like wow, this brother wearing a dress. This happened to me. I'm doing a movie with Martin. The movie's doing good, so I walk in the trailer. I'm like, man, this must be the wrong trailer, cuz there's a dress in here, Dave. He explained. He then discussed the conversation between him and a writer for the film, in which the writer tells him he would dress as a female during one of the scenes. The movie's going good. So I walk in the trailer. I'm like, man, this must be the wrong trailer, cuz there's a dress in here. Dave refused to wear the dress and found it peculiar that the scene wasn't discussed beforehand. That's when the writer summoned the producer and director to speak with Dave in an attempt to encourage him to wear the dress. Chappelle gave an account to his interviewer about how everyone from the film's writers to the producers attempted to persuade him to wear a dress. The comedian, who shared that he was uncomfortable with doing so, described the insistent attempts from every party, who said that all the greats did it at some point, but no matter how hard they tried, Dave Chappelle would not budge. You don't feel comfortable with it. I mean, it's a hilarious bit. All the greats have done it so well. If all the greats have done it, it's kind of hacky, right? You're right. So why don't we just do it? Cause I don't feel comfortable when I dress well. The fact that Omar was the one to reveal some of the ugly parts of the industry that several other stars seem to have also been fighting against had people praising the actor for standing his ground against the monster that is Hollywood. One person wrote, I have major respect for him for staying true to himself and not doing anything for money. There are a lot of